Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today I want to talk about the Bluetooth capabilities of a variety of Casio watches. This might be controversial. I read the comments on the videos that I post, and some people are just really opposed to having Bluetooth in their watches, to have any functions that are dependent on using the Bluetooth connection to an app in order to make those things work. And some of these watches have that. Most of these, you can use them without the Bluetooth connection just fine. Many of them have multiband 6, so that independent of Bluetooth, they can still set themselves to the correct time as long as you're within range of an atomic time transmitter that the multiband 6 system uses. And I guess that's the real point of it to me. I love my multiband 6 watches. I live fairly close to Colorado, to where the WWVB transmitter is, so my watches are pretty good. Almost every night they will set themselves to the correct time, unless I've got them tucked inside a closet or somewhere, or too close to a TV or whatever. But I can reliably get my atomic time transmitted to my watches automatically, and that's great. And that's because I live here where it works really well. But what about places in the world where it doesn't work really well? Maybe you're in a crowded urban area where there's just a lot of things that interfere with radio transmissions and reception. Maybe you live completely outside the range of any of these atomic time transmitters, South Asia or Australia or South America or Africa, a lot of places where people live where multiband 6 just doesn't work. But with the Bluetooth connection to the Casio apps, you can still have your watches automatically set themselves to the right time, right down to the second. And that, I think, is worth having Bluetooth in these watches. And for marketing purposes, it only makes sense that Casio would offer that, so that they can sell a lot of these watches in Africa and Asia and Australia and all these places, right? Okay, but what about the Casio Watches app? Some people just really don't like the app. And there are things about the app that they bother me too. Okay, first of all, I think it bothers me a little bit that you have to set up a Casio account in order to use the Casio Watches app. There can't just be like a guest mode. You have to set up an account with another password to remember, and who knows? You have to agree to all this legalese, terms of service and stuff like that in order to use it. And I kind of, that bothers me. And also, the default home screen here has a whole bunch of ads for Casio watches, and I would rather go default to my watches and just go there. So yeah, and then I'm sure other people, app developers out there, those of you watching this channel probably have a lot of opinions about how apps should be and what would be better than what you've been given. I understand all that. For me, the app, I rarely go to the app, just for a few things here and there, but most of the time these watches, they are setting themselves automatically using the app. It's kind of in the background. I never have to think about it. I never really have to open the app. So, and I'm okay with Casio having some personal information about me. If you want to get too upset about Casio's tracking me with the app, let's face it, this phone is doing a lot more tracking than the app ever will. And if we want to get into, that's a whole other topic, right? Of how much your personal information, your habits, all that stuff that's being tracked by companies in the background that you're not aware of it. Casio is a very small part of that problem. So anyway, yeah, I will acknowledge the app's kind of annoying. The whole reliance on an app, yes. But again, if you are in an area of the world where you want to keep these watches perfectly synchronized, the app has its purposes. And another thing I like about the app actually is that, it can automatically update the time if you travel a lot. When I did videos about atomic clock receivers, or, the things that are called atomic clocks that you can buy at Walmart and have those in your house, I did a bunch of reviews and videos about, alarm clocks and other clocks and just, those sorts of things. And even some of these older Casio watches that don't have Bluetooth, like maybe this one. This one will set itself correctly to the right time using multiband 6. But people would ask me, well, what about if I have one of these clocks in my RV and I travel a lot and I cross over time zones? Will it automatically update the time for the new time zone? And for the most part, the answer was no. This watch right here that I'm holding, this one, you can set it to the right time zone, and it will set itself to the correct time based on your time zone. But if you go moving time zones, it's not going to know that. The watch doesn't have that capability to sense where you are when you've changed time zones. But these other ones, they can do that through the app. So when they connect to the phone, and I think all these watches you can see here are set to automatically try to connect to the phone every 6 hours. So 4 times a day, they will try to connect to the phone and update themselves and make sure if they're just a fraction of a second off, it corrects that. And all that daylight saving time changes, all that stuff, it gets it from the app. So what happens when I'm using one of these watches and I travel and I cross time zones? Well, the next time the watch tries to connect to the app, it'll do what the phone tells it to do, basically. So most of us, the default setting on our phone is when we are traveling and we get to a new time zone, the phone will automatically take note of that. The phone will automatically change the time internal on the phone. And then these watches will also take that time zone information from the phone. So yes, if you're traveling without any effort on your part, as soon as the watch updates itself the next time it does after you've crossed the time zone line, the watch will update the time zone automatically. So that is a plus of using these apps. If that's your lifestyle, if you are crossing time zones a lot, and if you don't want to wait for the watch to automatically check in with the app, you can just kind of tap, like here's one of my newest G-Shock squares. If I tap this button on the lower right, just a quick tap like that, it takes a few seconds to connect to the app and update itself. And there I go. So if I just do that every now and then that information comes from the phone and it's all updated. So again, that's a good thing about having Bluetooth and having the ability to reference the app inside the watch. So now, just for the fun of it, I'm going to go in here and put my phone into airplane mode, turn off the cellular data, turn off Wi-Fi, but leave the Bluetooth working on this phone. Now I'm going to go into the date and time settings in the phone, and I'm going to disable this tab that says Set Automatically. All right, so I got deep into the settings. I had to do a few things to actually change the time zone on the phone. It was kind of locked in, but I finally figured it out. So I've set this now to Honolulu as the time on my phone, even though I'm not really in Honolulu. Now watch as I do a simple time update on some of these other watches and give it a moment to check in. And all of a sudden, yes, these 2 watches have changed to Honolulu time. Let's try this again with some other watches. Connect to Bluetooth and see what happens on these others. And as you can see, most of these watches have taken the cue from the phone and said, oh, we must be in Honolulu, and seeing they've changed their time. This one didn't because it's actually connected to an older app. So, but anyway, you get my point. The phone told them what time zone they updated. They're all perfectly accurate if we were in Honolulu. But so that would happen if I were on a plane. I landed in Honolulu. I suddenly connected to these watches to the phone, and the phone had been set to automatically update to Honolulu time. That's what would have happened. So one cool thing about Bluetooth, right? Now, there are lots of watches in my collection that have both multiband 6 and Bluetooth, lots more than what I'm showing you here, a lot of G-Shock squares that I have that way. These ones over here to the left of Shamu these ones will only set themselves to the correct time through the Bluetooth connection. So if I decided not to use Bluetooth with these watches, they'd still be accurate to within 15 seconds. So maybe, I don't know if some of them are 30 seconds a month, but they're still pretty accurate. But if you want them to be just absolutely correct, atomic time accurate, then that's when you're compelled to use a Bluetooth app in order to make that happen. So, you can connect these to Bluetooth, set them up exactly how you want, and then just kind of unpair them if you really wanted to. These wouldn't be quite as accurate as these after you did that. But again, I see a lot of complaints. I see a lot of people that are like, I will never buy a watch that has Bluetooth. And I say, well, maybe you could rethink that. I don't think it's as bad as you think. Plus, as I've said before, once you've got it connected to Bluetooth and it may be updating in the background, you don't have to worry about it. or you can unpair from Bluetooth and be just fine. But for a lot of people in a lot of parts of the world, that Bluetooth is great, allowing you to have all that accuracy that is so important to me, and one of my major reasons for being such a big fan of Casio watches. All right, that's enough for now. More videos are on the way, so please stay tuned for another episode of the Good Timekeeping Show.